And we are back to another great interview from Star East 2024, here reporting from Orlando, Florida. And I have my second victim of the day to the interrogatory seat, Dorothea Bozicolona. I always kind of like get trouble trying to figure out what's the right way to pronounce it. Please.
Dorothea Bozicolona-Volpe. And you nailed
Bozicolona-Volpe.
Bozicolona. Yeah,
Okay.
you nailed it.
But I know it's a longer name. Do you mind blasting it out to the people?
Oh,
You
the
have
whole
an
name?
awesome, yeah, take.
Okay, it's my full name is Dorothea Carolina Sofia Isabella Bozicolona-Volpe.
Wow, ain't that a mouthful? And I'm from Latin America. I also have like a long, big royalty name. Very happy to have you here, Dorothea.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Leandro. Gracias. It's a real honor to be here. This is my first Star East.
Yeah, it's a great to have you here joining this adventure because you are not from this environment. You're starting to sneak into all these areas from varied background. And for the people that do not know you, would you like telling us your story? How did you got up to this point? What have you been doing? What's up with
Sure.
Dorothea?
Yeah. So I actually did start out in technology.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't know this. And I like the way you put that varied background. It really does
You do a lot of
describe
things.
my background. I started out in law enforcement technology. This was back in the days of DARPA.net.
Cool.
Prior to it being open to the civilians, of all the folks that we are here today, obviously are using the internet every day for their work. But I used a lot of heuristics, psychology, and what we call NLP, neuro-linguistic programming and pathology, in my prior life. And what happened was I had a life event. My TED Talk does a very good job of describing that. So hopefully Leandro will drop the link to my TED Talk in this interview.
We'll make sure to share it. And
Yeah.
there's a TED Talk from this lady. Make
Yeah.
sure to go and check it.
And I had a catalyst happen in my life, and I talked about it in my TED Talk. And I realized that what I learned in law enforcement strategy, I could actually re-engineer. Notice how I put that in there. We're amongst a lot of engineers
No
today.
pun intended, but yes, kind of.
Yes, exactly. I re-engineered my career to really focus on the heuristics or psychological side of strategy. And now I work as a business and marketing strategist. I own my own boutique firm, Social Espionage. March 10th of this year, it turned 20 years old.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yes, so this is not the first technology conference that I've spoken at, but I work both as a keynote speaker, but also as a strategist in both business and marketing, with heuristics being at the heart of what I do. There are 4 areas of my business: personal branding and employer branding, community building around an organization. So kind of think like a bigger, better, fancier corporate intranet. Employer branding is really the candidate experience and making sure that you're hiring the right type of candidate for your culture, that you'll retain and will be loyal to your organization. Full-blown marketing strategy. So think influencer marketing, referral marketing, social media marketing, brand marketing. And then finally, sort of the 4th leg of the chair is e-commerce. I help brands understand how to sell their products utilizing the internet, whether it's a product, a service, or a solution. And I'm here today actually because of you. Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. And are we having, just quick parentheses, 20-year celebration? Is something coming up at?
I thought about that, but I kind of let it go because I was very involved with work at the time. And I think that eventually I'll probably do something this year. I don't know, maybe I'll go visit my niece in Edinburgh, and that'll be like my 20th, my gift to myself for my 20 years. But I always feel like there's something really cool about people who work in a solo fashion. And what I mean by that is you can work for a big corporation, but because you're working remotely, we've moved from the sharing economy to what I like to call the isolation economy.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that drove that really was coronavirus, was the
pandemic.
The pandemic. And I feel like when you work in a solo fashion, you're very much an entrepreneur. You're creating your own hours. You are working at your pace. Maybe it's faster than your colleagues. Maybe it's slower. Maybe it's at the same average level. But I feel that there's a romance to that. And I think we're all at heart entrepreneurs. And whether you're working for a large organization or whether you have your own quality testing consultancy, you are the CEO of you. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually talking about that in my session
Mm.
tomorrow at 3 o'clock in
L-
Salon 2.
let's
But I do want to talk about how we
first,
met
yeah,
first, though, because I think
because
that's a great
that's
story,
an interesting story as
actually.
well. What I was also opening, I had an opportunity last year, if I remember well, in Atlanta at the CMG Impact Conference where I was presenting as well, and she had the keynote opening the event, and uh, I remember I was wearing like the flashy dev role. Also, you have to make a presence and have your logos and all the thing, and I felt that from you. And I'm like, hey, you're cool. I want to talk a little bit, and we started to get along, and we were sharing like tips, experiences, conferences, where to go. And I told her like, hey, you gave a keynote here. It was a cool talk. I enjoyed it a lot. I think
Thank you.
I even filmed it on those
Hmm.
days, and I was like, I think that's cool for any conference, and this is a test and technology conference and CMG Impact. I know of this Star conference, which is really cool as well. Submit an abstract for the CFPs. I think, full disclosure, I was like, I know your experience is not just testing or just technology, but I think that your message is valuable for everyone. Personal branding, I think I kind of think it's important, as you can
Indeed.
tell. And I wish that more people around the testing community could get a grip on that, could understand and follow up some of the things that you
Right.
explained on that session that I experienced. And lucky and sure enough, you were selected. Your CFP was your submission was approved, accepted, and here you are. And
I
I
know
think
I owe it all to you. My first Star East as a speaker. How cool is that?
with the tag at the bottom,
Yes,
speaker.
exactly. It's a speaker and everything. And I've really enjoyed on LinkedIn connecting with people who are fellow speakers and also meeting other people that are participating in this conference. They've been so open, and I
Hmm.
feel very fortunate. My talk, you were talking about personal branding. My talk is really about how you become an influencer.
Hmm.
And there are some what I like to call brand tenets of it. And it talks about, I'll be talking about authenticity and vulnerability and storytelling and how you build a community around yourself. And I think these are very important things that you can take with you in your career, whether you're working solo for a larger organization. I mean, wouldn't you agree that if you have a larger digital footprint, you're only helping your organization that you are, attached to. You're allowing people to really understand that organization and see it through your eyes.
Hmm.
And I feel it's very beneficial, not just for the organization, but also for the individual. We do live in times that are like this,
Hmm.
and life isn't you graduate from university and your life just goes like that. I mean, you have things, hills and valleys that you have to uh, overcome in your journey in life. And I feel that the one thing that you can always count on is yourself. That's why I always say you're the CEO of
Of
you.
yourself.
You
Hmm.
really are. And I feel that to embrace that, you need to have a stronger personal brand. Not only does it help you in your career, because let's face it, businesses make decisions that have nothing to do with you. And you might at some time in your career experience a layoff, or a downsizing, something that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you're good at what you do, or that you are, the top in your field. And your personal brand is the thing that will carry you into that next role, but also allow you to have recognition amongst your peers, amongst your community, so that you also can grow.
It's very interesting because when I met you, that resonated a lot with me. I kind of started some of those things before, but you're right, and we have our personal brand, which if we manage it well and we develop it well, because it's mutating, we have
Right,
phases, as you say, ups and downs. We got to be ready to slide on the downs and climb through the ups and be
right.
adapting. But it's important because in your private life, with your family, with your friends, with your personal circle, you have a brand, a personal brand that you talk to the people at work, internally in an organization. If you're an employee, if you are working through the corporate ladder and all these things, personal brand matters. It helps you incredibly. You can be, you very well said it, you can be capable, technical, know this, know that, but also if you don't know how to publish it, how to
Mhm.
brand it, and do some personal PR, it's you're just hiding yourself from the world at an external level, other organizations, other communities. It's important that you know how to project what you want to communicate to the world, right?
That's right. And storytelling, that's one thing I forgot to mention, is also part of my talk tomorrow at 3 o'clock. What I'll say to you is that being able to tell your story in a way that's both authentic, that shares your vulnerabilities, that helps you communicate to your community, you never know who's going to be affected. I know that when I did my TED talk, and I always tell people, I'm so proud of that. It was a bucket list thing that I got to
Hmm.
do, but I applied for like 8 years.
Wow.
It wasn't like one of those things where, oh, I applied and I immediately got in. I had to be persistent, but in a pleasant way. And I got in at one of the most competitive cities in the world, New York City.
Oh, wow.
So I had to actually fly there. I found out about it like 2 weeks ahead of time. But the thing that they liked about my proposal for my TED talk was the fact that it had to deal with human vulnerability
Hmm.
and also building community. And I think that when you are putting yourself out there, you said it very well, you articulate it very well. People might be very good at what they do, but they're only known by their corporation and their colleagues. But being able to actually project that and tell that story across the digital landscape. And what I mean by that is maybe have a blog, or like what you're doing, having your own video channel, right, with Senior Performo, or having an Instagram or TikTok account. Being able to tell your story in a resonating way where you're sharing who you are, your vulnerabilities, your successes, and so on and so forth. People will find you, your community will find you. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things that is a big tenet of my talk tomorrow, a big element of my talk on becoming a QA influencer and building your personal brand.
I love that you started to mention all the mediums that we kind of start to brand
Sure.
ourselves into, because some people would think like, yeah, I'm only on LinkedIn and can't, or the other side of the coin. Some people that want to be on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all the possibilities.
Yeah.
When you said YouTube channel, or I know people that is just blogging, just
Hmm.
writing articles, pushing there into the ether. I don't know who's gonna catch them, but this is me. I'm putting myself outside, just writing, talking in front of a stage,
Yeah.
just coming, and you don't have to talk in a stage. You can just give a tutorial. You can just share your knowledge. You can.
You can write an article for the Star East or Tech World newsletter,
There's a newsletter. You
Yeah.
can be downstairs helping at the lab, driving some of the activities that the conference has. And not only in this conference, and you got me thinking, I'm like, yeah, getting up in a theater stage, you start to build your presence, even if it's inside like a, I don't know if organizations have a theater plays internal like we had in high school or things like that. But
Right.
even if they did, that's a cool way to translate, convey who you are, what is your message, what you can do. At the very least, that the product owner knows that the weird guy that can act can also like test software or something like that. It's important that you get out into
Exactly.
the world, right?
Right. And I think that we're at a very interesting apex. And I'm going to blame this also on the pandemic if I can. This is the first time in the history of your vocation, of your career, where your professional life and your personal life are becoming intertwined.
Mm,
Years ago, people used to say, oh, Facebook is just for my friends, and LinkedIn is for, my colleagues and the people I know from my industry. Now I ask people, do you do business with your friends? Yes. Are your colleagues ultimately your friends? Do you spend time with them? Do you go on
hmm.
barbecues or have lunches or dinners? Do you go out as a couple, whatever, right, with your partner? And people are saying yes more and more. And I think it's because we are now choosing in our careers to go work with people and companies.
Hmm.
People work for companies, yes, but they also work with people, right? And they buy from people, not companies, right? So this is the first time in the history of your career, of vocations in general, of every industry, where your personal and your professional brand are truly integrated. So I tell people, I said, if you want something totally separate, then start a total separate, business only Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, formerly Twitter account, so on and so forth. But really, if you think about it, you're the same person, People judge us by our actions, by what
Mm-hmm.
we do, by what they see us post on. They know sometimes who we are politically,
Mm-hmm.
who we are. If we're like myself, I'm a big ally of the LGBTQAI plus community. Some of my dearest friends are part of that community. And they can kind of, ascertain or judge, because we all judge,
Mm-hmm.
right, who you truly are by what you're posting and also what you react to and what you share. So I feel like you're already doing it both personally and professionally. People are going to know who you are regardless.
And when you mention some of that, like finding out who you are, I have the experience. Even I'm from Mexico. I get a work visa to be here, and even in the visa process, it's like social handle, please, because we want to know who you are.
Right.
And when you were saying that we can mix or divide our online personas, it's funny because I know a few people that, and I am one of those. I kind of try to not to mix. It's like Señor Performo conferences, blah blah blah. But at the same time, I still kind of have my Facebook for friends, or I have a secret Instagram where my silly pictures are out there. But this is the Instagram for blogs and videos, and this
Yeah.
is, or even I know some people that manage, it's like multiple personality situation, because they are like, this is the one where I just do podcasts, and this is the one where I just do stand-up comedy. I don't know. And
Yeah.
I know several that have like a
It makes
serious
sense.
something
Yeah.
here and then a silly something here, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like
But
I didn't know you
remember,
did stand up,
yeah,
huh?
pardon me for interrupting, but remember, all of those facets are still the
Yeah, yeah,
individual.
yeah.
So that's why, and if you want to follow me, here's my shameless plug. I'm at social espionage on everything, truly.
You-
Because to me, gosh, it's so much work to be somebody else on all these other channels. It truly is. So
mhm.
I really feel like, that's my brand. I'm going to stick to it. It's less work. And to your point, it's not a multiple personality kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
because that can be a lot to keep up with, right?
It is.
But in the same vein, what I'll say is that it's okay to court your brand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, please allow me to define that, if I may. It's where maybe you are that stand up comic at night, but during the day, maybe you're an attorney,
Yeah.
right? You can have the stand up comedy, group that follows you on Facebook, but as an attorney, you might only have your blog on the law firm's website as well as a LinkedIn presence.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, for certain people, and I encourage them to court their brand. But at the end of the day, we're all
It's
still the
all
CEO
ourselves.
of ourselves. Exactly. Yeah.
That's an interesting conversation, because I have a situation with uh, most probably you know who is Sasha Fierce.
Mhm.
So that was another situation where you first separate a persona to be able to do some things, but in the end, it's like, no, now I'm Sasha. I am Beyonce and Sasha
Yeah.
Fierce, and I mixed it up because at the beginning you couldn't mix it. You're right, it's you, but you have to develop all those things and merge them.
Mhm.
It's a cool dynamic that you can go in your professional, personal, psychological progression.
And I'm imagining that that's probably a much longer interview
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
than just for here at Starries.
Thank you for bringing me back to the point. I'm curious, some without spoiling your talk fully.
Yeah.
Give me some the trailer coming soon. What are the key points that people are gonna get from your talk?
Well, I think that I sort of aforementioned them a little bit earlier. There is that element of storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding how to represent yourself online so that you can have a larger digital presence, have a digital footprint that is more meaningful. And part of that is obviously, sharing your vulnerabilities, being authentic. There is obviously a phase two of all of that, but I always mention it because it's important. The only reason why we exist on any platform, whether it's Indeed or GitHub or Etsy, maybe we're more creative, or Facebook, is because we're trying to build a community around ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our product, our service, our solution. And in some cases, our product, our service, our solution is us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the only reason why you're doing that is because you're building community. And I think that's something that's so important, I'm very adamant about people owning their name. We were talking with your colleague Tanya today and you about our unusual names,
Mm-hmm.
right? You own Leandro Melendez. I own Dorothea Bozicolona-Volpe. She owns Tanya Gonzalez, And I think that, there might be thousands of Tanya Gonzalez's, there's only one of her.
Mm-hmm.
And just like there might be thousands of Leandro Melendez's, there's only one of you. Now, there's truly only one of me because I'm the only person with the last name Bozicolona-Volpe. But I will say that I carry my name with pride. I
Hmm.
don't shorten my first name and I don't shorten my last name. And there's a reason for that. I'm the CEO of me.
Hmm. It's important because you will be kind of quieting that piece of who you are, and
Yeah.
I can clearly tell that you want to full picture. You want to, this is me, I'm out there, and this is what I'm supposed to um, be sharing with the world, being true. Because when we were talking a moment ago that you may be a lawyer by day and then Batman by night or something like that,
Yeah.
at times we always wear masks.
Of
And
course.
what I'm getting from your point is like get all the masks together and just, or even like take them off, be
Embrace who you
yourself. And
truly are. Be your most authentic self.
I think that that authenticity, and you're making me think backwards into personal experience. Like the best outcomes is when you just embrace that authenticity, and
Mhm.
it's something that I think everyone in the communities and testers watching us, engineers, everyone tuning in, might get a big benefit. Embrace yourself, who you are, who, what's shiny, what even if it's not shiny, you can get the dark sides. And I know stand-up comedians that really embrace those dark sides, and it's cool. And so that's more or less what you're going to be going around in your talk. Now, if someone from the community came up and said like, hey Dorothea, I am working on my presence, I want to um, be seen or get improvement on my image, what recommendations would you give people without spoiling too much your talk? But what would you tell them like this and this you should start like looking at and seeing what you
Right.
can do?
So this would be my teaser. I wasn't going to tell anybody about this, but I think I can release it now.
Oh,
Tomorrow, I'm running a
premiere.
contest during my session. And the
Okay.
person who winds up using a very special hashtag that I created just for this event and my name and posts it the most on different social media channels will win an hour of my time consulting on their personal brand.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. So I think that would be really, that's the best teaser I can give for tomorrow.
Okay, stay tuned. If you're around, if you're watching, join the contest. But yeah, through this teaser, this activity, uh, you are gonna help them. Someone is gonna earn. But I want you to give some freebies to the audience. What are the things that you say in those consultations? Because I know there are some things that are tailor suited. Some
Yes.
people have some other capacities, but the big tips, three things that you say like,
How about if I give you the number one?
let's do it.
It was something I mentioned previously. Own your name.
Uh-huh.
Own your name. No one else should have your name but you. You own Señor Perfumo, I saw .co.tv, .everything. I own Dorothea Bozicolona-Volpe.com, .co, .tv, .social media, the whole bit, you know? And I think it's very important if you truly want to be the CEO of you. And I get this a lot. Well, my name is John Smith and I'm a quality coding tester and so on and so forth. I said, okay, so if you do quality assurance and code, maybe you're John Smith, the quality assurance guy, you know?
Hmm.
.com. But I think it's very important that if I give your audience one grain of wisdom, it's that they own their name.
It's funny because you just made me think John Smith or Juan Perez back in Mexico, which we have, that's it, some of the stereotypical most common names and last names. And I find it funny that that the first impulse, because we are in modern times, is not like your name or becoming like a politician that they add something, and
Mhm.
it's like a fun way to for people to remind you.
Right.
But you're adding the .com and that dot something that is almost needed nowadays, right?
Yes.
Uh, do you work with people that, I mean, do not have a personal domain and do not have this? Because you're talking,
In the beginning, yes,
you're
but
getting in an
eventually
online
they
persona.
move to that
Uh-huh.
owning their own brand, owning their own name.
And what do you think on those? Because you were mentioning this social network for this platform for that. Let's see if you are do this, um, a web page. If you want to just say like, I don't have a presentation card or anything like that, it's just like leandro.com and go and have it. Which mediums do you think or find more useful, or would you say to tech people?
All of them. specifically because you are in
Etsy?
technology, you have to embrace this only if you're creative in that way, right? GitHub makes a lot of sense. But this is what I'll say: each and every social media platform is one that has its own ecosystem.
Hmm. It's this talk in the ecosystem is interesting because I I as personally, I haven't been able to get into TikTok. I don't feel like, and there are some other topics. The first time I opened it, I'm like, oh wow, this is too much. I kind of like telling my age and feeling like the old guy already, like screaming, "You young kids, get off my yard!" But it's personal as well. What
Yes,
will help
exactly.
you? You just mentioned GitHub, which here in the testing community, some testers are not so used to it, or they're like, repositories, I do automations, why do I care about those things? But I like that recommendation because everyone dealing with technology are starting to move towards that platform.
Mhm.
Even to me as a tester, when I started to get into development projects, uh, I knew Git, I knew some of those things, but when I got to GitHub, like, this is another type of social network that I didn't expect it to see that. Like, wow, and it hooks you. That's one I love that you mentioned it because it's one that I'm finding lots of fun playing in
Yeah,
it, and there are cool activities. Do you have a GitHub?
I
Oh,
do, but I
yeah,
don't. I don't spend a ton of time there. I spend time there mainly for clients.
yeah,
We're getting a signal from Tanya. I want to be
cool.
very sensitive to
No,
your
don't
time.
worry. We're doing well. But yes, we gotta be mindful on the time in the interview. And amiga Dorothea, I know you already mentioned a little bit, but if people want to follow up with you, know what you're doing, or ask you more questions, where can they reach out?
Oh, that's easy. I have for the conference today, and I also have it on a slide tomorrow. I'm at Social Espionage on Instagram, TikTok, and X.
Hmm.
But they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's under my full name, Dorothea
You can see the name down
Bozicolona-Volpe.
there.
Here it is.
It's floating on the screen.
Yeah, there we go. Dorothea Bozicolona-Volpe. I'm also the same on Facebook, and I answer all of my messages. I make it a point to respond within 48 hours.
Oh, cool.
And I also encourage people to reach out to me, Dorothea, Dorothea, at socialespionage.com.
There in the corner of the screen, you're seeing it's spelled, clearly spelled. That's why we have it so that you can look for her, at her social espionage
Yes.
on almost all the social networks.
And I strongly encourage your audience to watch my TED Talk.
Yeah. We'll try to add, if you're seeing this in the future, right now we don't have it, it's live, but in the future it's going to appear in the right down there in the comments and the description of the video. So, amiga Dorotea, thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you
up and
so much
sharing.
for the generous gift of your time. I'm really honored, and thank you for introducing me to this lovely community. I'm so excited I'm at Star East.
You're going to fall in love with the testing community. It's a peculiar and charming community. You'll
I
see.
like that. I like
Okay, everybody, that was our amiga Dorothea Bozicolona-Volpe. And stay tuned because this is just starting. Second interview for the day, Star East 2024. And get ready because the panels are about to begin. We're going to have an automation face up, some performance testing, and Melissa Benu is bringing at the end of the day lots of discussions on testing and automation. So don't miss it. Stay tuned. And by the end of the day, we have lightning keynotes. Here, your friend is going to be presenting one of those and a walking tour. Probably, hopefully, we'll be able to get all the stamps on our passports. So, see you soon. Stay tuned. Leandro out. Dorotea out. Thank you very much and adios. See you in a moment. Bye bye.